All right, guys, happy Tuesday. Welcome to Shey's Way. Appreciate everybody taking some time in their week to sharpen the saw. Hopefully, I will impart something that you can glean some advice from to help you and your family in your financial endeavors. Again, appreciate you guys being here today. For those spent some time down in Mexico this last week with Chris. Saw some photos. Wow, looked amazing. I've heard some feedback from a number of people, and it just sounds like it was just a great event. So again, appreciate you guys tying into all of the events here at the Money School that you're looking to glean some information from. A little bit of house cleaning. There's a number of people just jumping in here, but just wanted to throw out. Couple weeks ago, I introduced you guys to a life insurance book. It was a 61-page book. There was a number of people that reached out for me to send those to you. So Ruth, Andrea, Dorina, just wanted to let you guys know if you pick it up, if you jump in here live today, or if you pick up the video. Those books are on their way. They were mailed 2 or 3 different business days ago, so you should be receiving them at the address that you provided to me. So just wanted to, Dorina, I see that you just joined. So again, your book's on the way. I'm going to talk a little bit about the asset care strategy today, but I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on it, talk a little bit about the tax component to it, and then how it fits into the infinite banking concept, how you can use it regarding your overall protection plan. But then in addition, if you're using the infinite banking concept and you have an IBC policy, then you can use that also. With all of that said, again, welcome everyone to this week's show of Shey's Way. We'll talk a number of areas regarding the protection component of your plan, the investment component of your plan, and then always tying in the tax component of everything that you're doing. We're going to talk a lot about the conventional wisdom and how we run contrary to that, and that is in your best interest to run against the conventional wisdom and against the herd or away from the herd. Anytime Q&A, throw it into the chat. If you have questions on that, I see a number of names that are familiar with this strategy. And if there's something that you can throw out there for the betterment of the group, that's awesome. I've had a number of meetings here in the last 2 or 3 weeks regarding this concept, this strategy, and how it fits into your overall plan. A little bit of house cleaning just for the video, and last week I misspoke regarding these our Shey's Way shows. We're going under Chris's YouTube channel. We actually purged that and set up a YouTube channel under my name. It's at Brian Shey on YouTube. Please go there. Obviously, hit the subscribe, go up, hit the little bell. So when we post different material out there, you can get notified and be able to tie in and get those. So again, it's out there on YouTube under my name, Brian Shey, and Shey is S-H-E-Y. Obviously, that gets spelled differently from time to time. So that's a little bit of house cleaning there. Following up with me, Brent, Chris, they're running around. They're extraordinarily busy. And a lot of times when you're scheduling something, you're going to get them or you're going to get someone else on the team. Myself, if you're scheduling anything with me, you're going to get me. And from time to time, obviously, sometimes things fall through the crack. It doesn't happen frequently. But for whatever reason, if you're looking for me to follow up or whatever may be, reach out through my website. You have access to my calendar. You can schedule as little as a 15 or 30-minute follow-up, or if there's something more detailed that you want to cover, then again, you can book that time through the Calendly link if you've gotten an email from me and or through my website. Let me jump into a little bit of material, and I'm going to tie it into one of the areas that we talk about are principles and values, and how most of the time, because people from a financial standpoint, their financial actions a lot of times don't line up with their values. And it's not because they don't know what their values are. It's due to the fact that most people are running through life trying to glean as much financial information as possible. And then a lot of times they're not lining up with exactly what they believe in. For example, one of my deep beliefs is after spending 30, 40 years of our lives working for a living, people should retire with dignity. It sounds easy. However, it requires an understanding of what is going to occur to all of us as we continue to go through life, continue to age, our health deteriorates, and an area of concern, but families have difficulties speaking about areas. Well, I'll just say it out. I'll throw it out here for the whole chat room. I've been doing what I do now for almost 25 years. And there are three things that people argue about, or what I'll say married couples argue about. There are three. So in the chat, if you guys will, throw in the three areas that you believe that couples or families argue about. And it's interesting how I've been using this for many, many years. And without doubt, there's always three, and everyone always gets 100% on this test. I see there are two in here so far, and we're at 100%. So please continue to throw that into the chat. Three areas that couples and or families argue about. Ruth says family. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Dorina, she threw out the three-letter word, and that is sex. And yes, that is definitely one of the three. James says politics. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I'm going to give Joanne gets the A+ of the day. So here are the three, and she was spot on. The three areas that families and or married couples argue about are money, kids, and sex. And those three have been the three. I've been asking that question, for 20 plus years, and everyone always gets it right. And for whatever reason, the money and the kids are always there, and that other one, it is what it is. We're all human beings. So with that, the area that I want to talk a little bit about today is the asset-based care strategy. And the reason that I'm bringing it up is because it's not only about your wealth, but it's amazing how when I'm in different meetings with people and I'll ask the question, is there an inheritance anticipated on either side, either the wife's side or the husband's side or whatnot? And a lot of times there's an inheritance on some side. And then at some point in time, we'll get around to talking about the health, the legacy, the estate plan and whatnot, and how the person that I'm meeting with is not the parents or the grandparents, and they don't know anything about it. No one ever talks a lot about it. And then inevitably, and I'm going to share my screen and take you through about 15 slides of information. But inevitably, I'll ask the question, do you believe that your parents will ever spend through their estate? Or do you believe you'll ever spend through your estate depending on your age? And again, I'm going to share the screen so I can kind of take you guys through some information so you guys can actually see it. Okay, so there's the question. Do you believe you'll spend through your estate? And inevitably, most people will say, no, there's no way I'm ever going to spend through my money. Or if it's a couple, I'll ask, do you guys believe you'll spend through what you've generated? And inevitably people say, no, there's no way we're ever going to spend through our money. And then I'll answer that and I'll say, you know what? I would agree with you with the exception of one thing, and that is a catastrophic health event. And you guys have heard me say this information before, so I'm going to say it again. Perfectly healthy, psychologically well-adjusted human beings are in denial of their mortality, or they're in denial of their morbidity. And when people say to me in a meeting or in a chat or whatever it may be, I'm not in denial of my mortality and my morbidity, I simply just kind of smile and I say, well, actually, I'm going to push back on you and say you are. Because the way God built the human being, we are all in denial of our mortality and our morbidity. It's the way God built the human being. If we weren't in denial of those things, we'd never get anything done because we'd be too paralyzed with the fact that something could happen to us today. Now, So what do we think? We drive vehicles, we drink Diet Coke. My wife yells at me every day that Diet Coke's gonna, be my demise. We fly on perfectly good airplanes. All of those things, because we're in denial of those areas of our life, it allows us to be functioning members of society. So therefore, denial is at the root of the reasons. I've said it, 91% of the American population do not have a will. Denial is always in the background of our lives. And the reason I'm sharing this information, for a number of reasons, is we do a phenomenal job here at the Money School talking about banking on yourself and the infinite banking concept and using life insurance as a retirement plan or a LERP. We do a phenomenal job, and you guys understand all of that. One of the areas that we finally talk about after we get those different strategies in place is we talk about, okay, how are we going to transfer wealth that you're generating across generational lines and make sure that A, you don't run out of money, and B, that you don't spend through your estate and then there's nothing to transfer. And the area of those words, long-term care, is not an area out there that people want to talk about. And let me explain to you why they don't want to talk about it. First of all, that strategy or product of long-term care came out about 35, maybe 40 years ago. And the insurance industry did a poor job in pricing and designing the strategy or the product. So therefore, no one wants to talk about a product where you pay money in for 10 or 15 or 20 years. And then if you never use the strategy or never use the product, then the insurance company gets all the money and your family gets nothing. That is not what we're talking about. That's what I call the dinosaur of long-term care. And that is not the strategy that we use here with our clients. No one wants to talk about the dinosaurs of long-term care because it's exactly what I just described. People pay their money to an insurance company for years. There's nothing guaranteed about it. There's no guaranteed premiums that can't change. There's a lot of people throughout the great country of ours that are seeing 400, 500, 1,000% increases in their policies. And that's not what we do. Okay. We use a different strategy that regardless of what happens, someone's getting the money. But let's jump in to this strategy, and it's a pretty simple, straightforward strategy. First of all, if you don't believe that you're ever going to need some type of care, if you're one of those people that denial is really, really apparent in your life, here's a stat where an American turning 65 years of age today, 7 out of 10 of those people are going to need some type of care. Now, if you're going to go to the grave and believe that you're going to be in that other 30%, then that's fine. Don't listen to me or whatever. However, most of the people that fall into that 70%, about half of those with protection are severely underprotected. When we talk about asset-based care, what I'm referring to is a strategy that is put out, and One America is the carrier that we use. They're our strategic partner. I think I have a slide here in a little bit that talks a little bit about them. But when you talk about that strategy, then you get these 4 areas. So first of all, the reason that we use asset-based care is no matter what happens, there's benefits no matter what the future holds. If you live, quit, or die, someone is getting the money. What I mean by that is this. If you live, then there is a life insurance component to the strategy. There's cash value accumulation during the strategy. So no matter what happens, either you're going to use it or there's going to be assets that transfer to your estate. Number 2, if you quit, then you get the cash value, whatever the value of the policy is going to be at the time that you jump out of it. In 20 plus years, I haven't had anyone quit. I'm not sure why you would, but if there's some reason out there, then I don't know about it. And then at some point in time, if you don't use the product or the policy, when you pass away, there's a life insurance component to the policy. Number 2, everything about it is guaranteed. Everything. The premiums cannot change. The cash value growth is guaranteed. The death benefit is guaranteed. And obviously, as I mentioned, there's going to be a cash surrender value if you chose to quit. 3, the patent that One America put together it is a joint policy. So whether it be domestic partners, husband, wife, they put two people on a policy, and therefore from an actuarial or underwriting standpoint, it's tremendously different. And then number 4, it is lifetime protection. The policy never stops. It never runs out of money. And One America, pretty straightforward that they're the only carrier that I talk about because they're the only carrier in the United States that will pay a lifetime benefit to a husband and a wife or domestic partners. So regardless of how long you're under care, their policy never stops paying. So again, if there's any questions, throw those in, we can get to them. Basically, this is an algebra equation. So if I take John and Sarah Williams and they're 49 and 48 years of age, you can look at it 2 different ways. And this is how I design these strategies for people all over the country. You can say to me, listen, I'm on a fixed budget. This is how I want to fund it. And I don't want to fund it with any more than this. And for conversation purposes, let's just say it's $10,000 per year. So if you said, this is what my budget allows me to be able to do, then I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to solve the equation for the maximum amount of benefit that amount of money would ever be able to give either an individual or, in this situation, a husband and a wife. So what happens is this: if John and Sarah are able to qualify, because you do have to go through underwriting to qualify for this, they may say, we want to spend $10,000. What does that give them? First and foremost, it gives them $233,333 worth of life insurance, whole life insurance, guaranteed by the contract through the carrier with an interest rate, with a mutual company that pays a dividend. So if John and Sarah got into this policy and they never, ever used it, neither one of them ever went under claim and never needed to use it, then $233,000 worth of life insurance is going to transfer to their children or to their estate whenever they pass away. However, the numbers are 7 out of 10 people are going to need care at some point in time. If either John or Sarah go under claim, the first $233,000 worth of benefit is going to be the acceleration of that life insurance money. Example, John goes under claim, he's getting and he uses $300,000. Whenever the 2 of them pass away, there would be no life insurance because they used the benefit of their policy. However, if both of them go under and they were to use that, then after that 233 is exhausted, then they're into the continuation of benefits, and that money never runs out. Again, lifetime benefit paid to both John and Sarah for as long as they're under claim. No matter what happens, someone is going to get the money out of this policy. In addition to that, because everything we look at is from a tax standpoint, then we want to talk about the tax component of this. So in this situation, this policy provided $7,000 worth of monthly benefit for both John and Sarah, $7,000 per individual. If both of them went under claim, then they're getting $14,000 a month, and they get that as long as they're under claim, for as long as they live. So I put everything, and I think it's in the next slide, I put everything into upside potential and downside risk. But in this situation, because the asset care strategy is a life insurance policy that provides long-term care benefits, then, as we all know, life insurance premiums are not tax deductible. However, long-term care premiums are. Therefore, in the bottom left of the screen, where the blue arrow is on tax deductibility, they break out the life part of the premium and they break out the long-term care part of the premium, because the long-term care amount, there is some tax efficiencies for that. So again, I just want to point out that that part, again, there's some tax efficiencies on, And then just to the right where it says features and benefits, everything about this, premiums are guaranteed to never increase. There's guaranteed cash value. There's waiver of premium, where if either John and or Sarah are under claim at any point in time, then they don't need to fund the policy because the funding is waived. The 233 is life insurance. Everything else after that is long-term care benefit. Let's look at it from a tabular standpoint. So this is my downside risk and your upside potential. So when you talk about John and Sarah and or anyone else out there, most of the designs of this can be, the policy can be designed at a 5-year, 10-year, 15 or 20 pay periods. This is what I'm showing you on a 20 because that's normally the strategy that we're using due to the age of our clientele that we're working with. So in this situation, your downside risk, $10,000 a year for 20 years. So if John and Sarah fund this policy for 20 years, 10 grand for 20 years, they're going to fund it with $200,000, which is the total annual premium, the left-hand column. The next column over is your cash surrender value. If in year 20, they called up and said, hey, this is the greatest thing in the world, but we don't want it anymore. What do we get back? One America is going to send them back almost 100 grand, 99,685. So over that 20-year period, the actual cost wasn't 200, it was actually 100 grand. So I look at your downside risk of this. Your downside risk is 200,000 bucks. The reason I use the 200 because if John and Sarah never ever use their policy, then when the two of them pass away, the death benefit is 233,000. Okay. So worst case scenario, they spend 200 grand and the estate gets 233. There's your downside risk. The upside potential of this strategy is unlimited. And the reason that it's unlimited is because under any type of benefit of long-term care, the policy never stops paying. Therefore, if either one of them are under claim and they're receiving $7,000 a month, which is $84,000 a year, and they were under claim for 10 years at 84 grand, that's $840,000 that One America would pay them. So again, while the upside potential means that someone's under claim, the money never stops coming in. So, and again, One America is the only carrier out there that continues to do this. There's no other insurance company in the United States that offers unlimited lifetime benefits. Question is, can you do this without a spouse or without a domestic partner? The answer is yes. If it's just one policy holder, then obviously there would just be one life that would go under underwriting, and that's the way that would work. Planning on it. Okay, I'll get to that one here in a little bit. So as I mentioned, One America is our strategic partner that we use. They are a AAA rated financial company. They are a mutually held company that pays a dividend. And again, they've been around since 1877. So very secure company that we've used. Well, I've worked with them for more than a decade. So just a phenomenal company that continues to, well, they actually invented this product, patented it almost 30 plus years ago, and continue to offer this throughout the country. From an underwriting standpoint, the actuarial on this strategy is actually much easier because they're insuring 2 lives rather than 1. So when you're going through underwriting to find out to determine whether or not you qualify, the underwriting is actually much easier. It starts with a phone interview, and they reserve the right to actually waive any additional underwriting requirements. Sharon, what defines total lifetime care? It's interesting how you're asking that. What I'm going to, I'm thinking you're asking unlimited lifetime benefits. So in my example that I was sharing with you with John and Sarah Williams, if either one of them went under care, either home health care, nursing facility, assisted living, anywhere they needed care, they were receiving $7,000 per month, which is $84,000 a year. So as long as they're under claim, and every policy in the country has the same definition of if you're unable to perform two of your activities of daily living, then in the One America policy, your primary or personal doctor is the decision maker if you are under claim. So if you're talking about the 6 activities of daily living, you're talking about transferring, getting in and out of bed, being able to go use the restroom, being able to walk. If you're unable to perform 2 of those 6, by definition, and your primary doctor signs off of it, then you're under claim. And in my analogy there, we do a lot of 75, somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000 benefit is most of the strategies that we're putting together for our clientele. So either $84,000 a year, $120,000 a year if it was a $10,000 monthly benefit, and that benefit will get paid in for as long as you're under claim or as long as you need the policy. It never stops. So I think that's what you're asking me there. You said yes, what qualifies, and if you're what qualifies if you're talking about assisted living, nursing home, home health care, and anywhere that you need and or want to have care, then you're under claim. There are no restrictions regarding where or the facilities that you're looking to be in at some point in time. Everything is covered. No, Sharon, so you don't have to be in a facility. Obviously, most people that are going to use these strategies, they're going to want to stay in their own home. So anyway, it covers you in your own home, and actually everywhere, assisted living, nursing home facilities, those types of environments, there's a 90-day elimination period on the policy. For home health care, it's actually 0. It kicks in immediately when you go under claim. So good question. I'm working on a case right now through one of Hannah Kessler's relationships where very, very young. The age here is 35 to 80. So you have to be at least 35 years of age, and you cannot be older than 80 to qualify or to go through underwriting to determine whether or not you qualify to be able to use the strategy. Here's a question that I get frequently just because of all of the infinite banking policies that we put in place. Can you use this policy as a banking policy? The answer is this. Is there cash value accumulation in the policy? Yes. However, this is not a policy that you're going to use the same way that you use your banking policies. So this is, for the lack of a better word, this is a decent life insurance policy with absolutely the best long-term care benefits, in my opinion, of any policy that exists in the United States. I don't talk about other carriers when it comes to this, due to the fact that I just made a decision a long time ago that I was not going to put myself in a position where I ever had to call a family up and say, hey, you're out of money, so you got to go get mom or dad out of the facility. Or if you're at home, then the wells ran dry and you're out of money. And because One America is the only company that will do that, they're the only company that we talk about. Funding it. If you're over 59 and a half, you can look at using qualified money to fund this policy. It's a head scratcher because we always say, hey, you can't use IRA money or 401k plan money to fund life insurance. That's true, but this isn't just a life insurance policy. It's life insurance and long-term care. And therefore, One America does allow you to use IRA money, traditional IRA money, so pre-taxed money that you've never paid taxes on, to fund the policy. I'm not going to get into a lot of the details there because it's individually, but over 59 and a half, obviously we would never advise you to use it if you were going to get hit with a 10% penalty. So therefore you can use those assets if you're over the age of 59 and a half to fund this. Another question that I get frequently is, when is the best time to start looking at this? I can tell you that for my wife and I, we looked at it when I was 45. I'm 52 now. I wanted to be done when I was 55. So I structured the policy over a 10-year period. So when I'm 55, I'm done giving them the money regarding that policy. Now, the question is here is, with this being insurance, it's not considered income and does not affect Medicare or Medicaid. That is correct, Sharon. Your benefit would not, well, I'm just going to say it this way. Your benefits are tax-free. So it would not affect either one of those areas, and it would not affect as far as income and being taxed on any of the benefits. So that is true. So if it's $84,000 a year, $7,000 a month, that is not taxable. Good question again. One of the areas that we talk a lot about on this is when we're talking to people who their parents are still around and there's that inheritance aspect of it. This needs to be a conversation. Is there an inheritance anticipated? Yes, I'm going to receive whatever, $1 million from my dad or my mom or whatever it may be. Well, if mom and dad haven't done this type of planning, then you can plow through millions of dollars in a very short period of time when someone goes under claim. So therefore, this becomes a conversation of protecting the assets that your parents and or grandparents have accumulated over their lifetime to make sure that they don't spend through that by needing to use their own money for care. And then there's no inheritance to transfer across generational lines. So it's certainly one of the areas that we use this type of policy or this type of strategy to make sure that we're protecting assets along the way. Again, underwriting, I talked about because I get a lot of questions regarding it's a phone interview initially, and then if they want to do full underwriting where you have to pee in a bottle, give blood, and answer the health questions, then you go through that process. Underwriting normally takes about 3 or 4 weeks to determine whether or not you qualify. None of that costs any money. There's no guarantee. There's no risk. It's just a process that all people have to go through. One of the areas that that we get questioned on is, can you use your infinite banking policy to fund this? Sure. It's no different than using your banking policy with everything else that you do. So if the in my analogy I was using, it's going to cost $10,000 per year. Can you borrow that out of your infinite banking policies and pay this premium and then put the money back into your banking policy? Certainly can. No different than buying a car, investing in real estate, or any other strategies that we've talked about in all of the different times that we talk a lot about these. If you are, I mentioned a case that I'm working on right now for a fairly young person. They're over the age of 35, but they are in their late 30s. And is there inflation? Yes, you can put inflation protection, either 3% or 5% onto the policy. A lot of times it makes a little bit more sense just to increase the benefit. Inflation protection is a little bit costly. So I run the numbers different both ways for people, and then show them and let them make an educated decision on how they want to do that. So that's another question that we get frequently in regards to younger people. Again, underwriting actuarially is much easier when when the underwriting team is looking at 2 lives rather than just 1. And then in addition to that, it's more about morbidity than mortality. So I get a lot of questions that, people have had heart surgery or things like that. It's more heavily underwritten towards your morbidity rather than mortality, because obviously if someone has dementia, Alzheimer's, the average life expectancy for someone that has that is a little bit north of 8 years. So obviously underwriting is looking at paying those claims over an 8-year period rather than the mortality of someone that has had diabetes or cancer or heart disease or things like that. So it's significantly different. I've got 1:47. I've got a couple more minutes with you guys. If you have any other questions that are coming up, or if you're hesitating, throw them into Sharon's blowing up the Q&A. So throw them in the Q&A and I can get to them. One area that that I have had a couple questions from a funding standpoint. Can you fund this all up front? And the answer is yes. So you can fund it at a single pay. You can do a transfer of IRA or 401k money, and then you can design the policy. If you don't want to do a single, you can design it over either a 5 pay, a 10 pay, 15 or 20. We do a lot of 20, just due to the fact of timing and when people are looking at retiring and when they want that premium dollar to stop having to go in. So we do a lot of 20-year designs. The IRA, question about using IRA money. There's no free lunch. So let me make the math easy. If you have $200,000 in an IRA and you were going to transfer that IRA money and fund an asset-based long-term care policy with IRA money, what will happen is One America designs that at a 10 pay. So they're going to drip a premium off of those dollars per year. Remember, you put 200 grand in an IRA, you never paid any taxes on it. And there's no free lunch. You don't just get to move 200 over to this policy and never pay taxes. However, you don't get taxed on a $200,000 distribution out of your IRA. What would happen is if that annual premium, let's just say for conversation, is 20 grand, 20 times 10 is 200,000. So you would get a 1099 at the end of each year. They would drip off 20 grand and they would fund the policy with that 20, and you would get a 1099 at the end of the year for a $20,000 distribution. Again, no free lunch. However, it is not a $200,000 distribution. It's spread over 10 years. And when you're taking other tax efficient strategies into play, then obviously you have to look at the effective tax rate rather than the marginal. So again, that's just an area that if you have really that question out there when you talk about, do you have IRA money that you're never going to use? And for most of the time, there is IRA dollars out there that people are not going to use. So that's certainly a strategy that we use. I'm going to copy my website link, drop it into the chat for you guys to have. So obviously all of these shows are recorded and they're going up on my personal website. In addition to that, if you are out there on the YouTube, go to @BrianShey and click on the subscribe, click on the little yellow bell that you can get notified when other areas or other things are recorded. I put that up there for you to review. If there are any individual questions and you want to just get together for 15, 30 minutes, feel free to go to the website. You have access to my calendar through the website, and you can get on there and again, follow up with any detailed questions. Dorina, I don't know what my parents are planning on it. I don't know if that means they're planning on spending all of the money or they're planning on transferring those assets down to you. So hopefully it's number two, that they've done some decent planning and they're able to transfer what they've spent a lifetime accumulating to you and your family. So that spending, they're spending it. Okay. All right. Well, again, hopefully they've done some good planning and those things. Let me go back to the Q&A. I think somebody just dumped something in here. David, what if you go under claim before 10 pay or 20 pay is complete? Yeah, David, great question. That's where the waiver of premium kicks in. So let's just say it's a 20 pay design and you go under claim in year 10. So from that point forward, you're no longer funding the policy in year 10 or year 11. As long as you're under claim, then One America waives the premium. If you were to get healthy again and come back, then you would just pick up paying your premiums from that year. But any point in time in the paying years, if you go under claim, then the premiums are waived. Really good question. And David, I'm glad that you threw that in there. And that's for either. If it's joint policy, if either the husband or wife are under claim during premium paying years, then One America waives the premium. So good question there. In addition to that, David, if you happen to use IRA money and you transferred it, and then they're dripping that payment off per year, if you were under claim, instead of them, they would still drip off the 20 grand in my example illustration. And instead of funding the policy, they would send you the check for the 20 grand. And then obviously, again, no free lunch. You've got to pay whatever the effective tax rate would be that year that you're in with all your other planning. So, but again, good question. Guys, I've got 155. So again, please go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, click the yellow bell so you get notified when I put stuff up. You can and get to my calendar through the website. Again, great being with you guys. And look forward to seeing you guys in a week. I'm out of here. Have a great week. See ya.